The series begins with a student carving her name and date of birth into a wall. Wrong, March 12th, 2005. After finishing, she opens her phone camera to record a video, and it's clear she's not in a normal state. She says that people are probably wondering what this crazy girl is doing, asking if they've ever heard that writing your name and birth date can make any wish come true instantly, but with a price, and her wish is for everyone to die the same way she will. She then pulls out a sharp object and stabs it into her neck, dragging it as blood floods the place until she dies. 3 years later, we move to Sai, a student living with her aunt, a doctor, after losing both parents in a car accident. Her closet full of medals shows she's athletic, but she feels lonely because her aunt is always busy at the hospital. She prepares breakfast, and the moment she hears the shower from the apartment above, she smiles, knowing Ji-yeon, her close friend and secretly her boyfriend, has finally woken up, though they hide their relationship from their friends. Ji-yeon realizes he's late, grabs his bag, and runs down the stairs to catch her before she leaves. At the same time, Nori, their third friend, arrives in a car, and as soon as she sees Ji-yeon crossing the street, she rushes out and fixes her hair to look her best, revealing a complicated love triangle. Her expression changes when she sees C with him, suspecting something between them but having no proof. Then their fourth friend arrives, carefree and observant, staring at Ji-yeon and saying they've been friends since middle school, but something feels different, asking if they're secretly dating. Nari panics and shuts him down, afraid the joke becomes truth. But he keeps teasing her, saying she looks like she likes him one-sidedly. And surprisingly, she admits it easily, saying yes, she likes Ji-yeon, leaving all four in silence as things get more complicated. When they enter the classroom, they find their friend Han watching programming videos, confused by their tense mood, and one of them offers to explain everything if he fixes his laptop as a birthday gift. Just as the teacher walks in to announce the math exam results, revealing only 2 students got full marks. Of course, the first one turns out to be Han, but the surprising part is that the second is Cam, which is almost a scientific miracle, since Cam barely passes any subject. At that moment, Cam receives a notification on his phone from an app called Gergo, saying, "Your wish has been granted." And he looks around in confusion, unable to understand what's happening. Later that day, his friends gather around him in what feels like an interrogation, trying to figure out what he did to get a perfect score, asking if he cheated, swapped papers, or what exactly happened. Proudly, Cam tells them he didn't do any of that. He just downloaded the Gergo app, which grants wishes. Since Nari is the quickest to get annoyed, she snaps at him, saying she's wasting her time listening to nonsense, while C tries to speak calmly and asks him to explain properly instead of joking. But Cam insists he's telling the truth and explains that the app isn't on the store, but he sent them the link because they're his friends, and all they have to do is write their name and birth date on paper, record a video inside the app while making a wish, and it will come true immediately. To prove it, he shows them the video he recorded wishing to get a perfect score, but they just laugh at him, thinking he's being ridiculous for believing an app could do that. C is the only one trying to reason with him, telling him he should probably stop taking his focus medication because it's affecting his mind. As he opens the app again to show her the message he received, he suddenly notices a timer counting down. 22 hours, 58 minutes, and 22 seconds, which makes him uneasy since he doesn't understand what it means. But he reassures himself that it must be the time until he can make another wish. Later, Nari stands in front of the mirror in the bathroom, checking her appearance, and C asks if she's doing all this for Kam's birthday. But Nari clearly can't stand Kam, calling him childish and embarrassing, always talking about anime, and acting in ways that make everyone uncomfortable. C gets annoyed by her attitude and reminds her that Cam's family cares a lot about grades, which is why he tries so hard, then quickly changes the subject when they run into him. Cam notices they went quiet and asks if they were talking about him, and strangely, Nari tries to cover it up by saying they were thinking about what to get him for his birthday. He gets excited, saying he doesn't care about gifts, he just wants to spend the day with them. Meanwhile, on a mountain, we see a shaman whose job is to cleanse evil spirits, and after finishing a ritual, a snake suddenly appears, making her realize that it's a sign something terrible is about to happen. She immediately goes to her husband, who helps her, and tells him they need to prepare quickly because something is coming. Back at school, C and Ji-yeon are training together since they both practice high jump, but Ji-yeon looks tense because every time he reaches the final step, his body freezes. The coach gets angry and tells him he hasn't learned from last year when he lost the competition, and that he needs to focus and control his fear. Meanwhile, C talks to him quietly so the coach doesn't notice anything between them, advising him to close his eyes before jumping and imagine everything around him as clouds, telling him he can do it, which makes him happy because she truly cares about him. She tries to help him find a solution, and at the end of the day, the coach tells Sai that she has been selected for the national team, so she needs to focus more on training and reduce the romance, or at least help Ji-yeon control his fear so he might qualify with her. She's surprised that the coach knows everything. On the other hand, Cam is sitting in class, frustrated because he doesn't understand anything, when he suddenly receives a call from Sai. He steps outside to answer, but strangely, he hears her talking with their friends, saying she doesn't want to waste time celebrating the birthday of someone like him. The others agree, calling him useless and saying he does nothing but watch cartoons. He's shocked and devastated, unable to believe his friends would talk about him like that behind his back. He hangs up quickly and calls C again, hoping it was a mistake or just his imagination, but she doesn't answer because she left her phone in her bag during training, and the call he received remains unexplained. After finishing, C runs to Ji-yeon and tells him she made it to the national team, and he gets so excited he starts jumping in place. Later, when she gets home, she texts her aunt to share the news, then notices that Cam has called her more than 50 times, which confuses her since he's never done that before. She's about to call him back, but gets distracted by her aunt asking her to order food, which annoys her because she wanted to celebrate with her, so she looks for another option and calls Ji-yeon to go out and eat together. Meanwhile, Nari is at home taking pictures and posting them on Instagram when an older guy replies, inviting her to hang out and even offering to help her get into a place despite her age, which excites her, and she decides to go. Later, C remembers Cam and calls him to check on him, and she notices from his voice that he's very upset. He asks her if she's really not coming to his birthday, and unfortunately, she can't because of national team training, but he refuses to listen to her explanation and hangs up on her. She feels upset, not expecting things to escalate this way, especially since she's worried that Nari might take the opportunity to get closer to Ji-yeon. Ji-yeon laughs, realizing she's jealous, and things start getting playful between them. He takes a paper, writes his name and birth date, and records a video on the app, wishing for C's training to be postponed so she can attend the birthday. They laugh it off, not realizing the seriousness of what they've done or the consequences waiting for them. The next day, they head to school together, and as soon as they enter the classroom, they notice Cam acting strangely, holding his phone in a tense way. His timer starts ringing loudly with less than 2 minutes left, and suddenly he stands up, his head moving in a disturbing way, creating a terrifying moment. When Ji-yeon approaches Cam to check on him, Cam suddenly pushes him with all his strength, throwing him across the classroom. In that moment, he pulls out a sharp object from his bag and brings it close to his neck, and it becomes clear that something else is controlling his body, because he struggles desperately to stop his own hand. C is completely terrified by what's happening, so she runs toward him, calling his name, hoping he will regain control, but things only get worse. He suddenly turns toward her and attacks, causing both of them to fall to the ground. And as the timer reaches its final seconds, he freezes for a moment, then drags the blade across his neck until he dies. C collapses in shock at the sight and rushes to help him, but it's already too late, and the incident is officially ruled as suicide. She is completely shattered after witnessing everything, and suddenly she flashes back to the day before, when she went to his house with his birthday gift. He had refused to come down at first, so she threatened him, saying he had 3 minutes to come down or she would jump from the window herself, and since he knew she might actually do it, he came down. At that moment, she apologized for not being able to attend his birthday because of training, but assured him that their friends would still be there and gave him his gift. That's when Cam realized that the call he heard earlier wasn't actually from her, and he even apologized for the misunderstanding. She snaps out of the memory, completely broken, and rushes to training, but the coach immediately notices her condition and hugs her, telling her there will be no training today, and she should go home and rest. Si suddenly realizes that Ji-yeon's wish has come true, and that the same cycle might repeat again. So she insists on continuing training. But things don't go as expected, because part of the ceiling suddenly collapses exactly where she was supposed to be. At that exact moment, Ji-yeon receives a message saying his wish has been granted. And before he can process it, Si runs in asking if the countdown has started, terrified. He tells her that her training was canceled, and soon the four of them gather to figure out what is happening. Strangely, when Nari watches the wish video, the only thing bothering her is confirming that there is something between Si and Ji-yeon. Han tries to find a solution by deleting the app and restarting the phone, hoping everything will end. But when the phone turns back on, the app is still there. Nari gets angry and insists that Kam's death has nothing to do with this, and that it's just a coincidence, suggesting the message could have been sent by a hacker, while also accusing Si of doing all this just to get Ji-yeon's attention. Si finally snaps, reminding her that their friend died right in front of them, and that she already lives with trauma from losing her parents, and all she cares about now is not losing anyone else. Han tries to calm things down, pointing out that the app clearly isn't normal since it keeps returning even after deletion, and suggests they all gather at Si's house to figure out its origin and who created it. On their way there, Ji-yeon apologizes to Si, saying he didn't realize how deeply her parents' death still affects her, and that he should have been there for her more. But she reassures him that his presence alone was enough to help her move forward and continue living her life normally again, telling him not to blame himself beyond his limits. When Ji-yeon returns home, he finds Si calling him, but strangely, it's the exact same call Kam received, repeated word for word, except this time it's about him, with a voice saying he's useless and that she's only with him out of pity. He refuses to believe it could be Si, especially since she's alone, so he rushes to her apartment to make sure, and indeed finds her just out of the shower. He quickly hides both their phones in the fridge, thinking they might be hacked, but Si realizes the situation is far bigger than that, and tells him Kam received the same kind of call. Later, the four of them gather again, and when Han examines the app's code, he's surprised by how simple it is, with nothing unusual, so he tries to interfere with it to stop the countdown. That turns out to be a terrible mistake, because it angers the spirit controlling it. Suddenly, Ji-yeon starts scratching his eyes violently, as if something has entered them, completely losing control of his body. He points toward the balcony, seeing something no one else can see. Shocked, Nari pulls out her phone and starts recording, while Ji-yeon continues moving uncontrollably, his head tilting back until he nearly harms his own eye. Han tries to stop him, but it only gets worse as the spirit fully takes over, and Ji-yeon grabs Han by the neck with one hand, trying to kill him. Si reacts quickly, grabs a laptop, and hits Ji-yeon on the head, knocking him unconscious. They are all rushed to the hospital, where Ji-yeon is admitted to intensive care in critical condition. Si desperately wants to stay by his side, but Nari pulls her away because his family is there, demanding answers. Meanwhile, Han returns home and focuses entirely on the app, trying to understand what's happening, when suddenly he receives a call from Hyesil, a shaman living in the mountains who is also his sister, despite their strained relationship. She tells him to stop immediately and not interfere again, explaining that everything that happened was because he tried to stop the countdown, which angered the spirit and caused harm, and that if Si hadn't acted quickly, Ji-yeon would have died. He's shocked, asking how she knows all this, and she explains that the app isn't just cursed, it spreads like an infection through messages, images, or videos to anyone who makes a wish, and tells him to bring his friends to her because she's the only one who can help. Meanwhile, Si makes the hardest decision of her life. She downloads the app herself, writes her name and birth date on paper, records a video making her wish, and the moment she sends it, the curse reaches her too. When Han arrives and discovers what she's done, he asks her why she would risk everything when Ji-yeon is already suffering, but she tells him she can't lose him the way she lost her parents, and that she wished for him to recover, hoping that if she can see the spirit, she might be able to stop it. At that moment, she receives a message that her wish has been granted as Ji-yeon wakes up and returns to normal. But unfortunately, the countdown begins again. Meanwhile, Nari goes to Si's house to collect her belongings, and at the same time starts looking for Ji-yeon's phone. Here comes the biggest shock. Nari also made a wish, and her countdown had already started earlier that morning. and suddenly she notices that Ji-yeon's timer has stopped, which terrifies her because it makes no sense. C quickly realizes they must move immediately to meet Han's sister, clarifying that she didn't leave the country but abandoned her old life to become a shaman, and that she's the only one who can help them now. When they reach the forest, the driver drops them off because he refuses to go any further, forcing them to continue on foot. The path is extremely dark, filled with strange, unexplained sounds, and suddenly insects swarm them, causing C to panic and run in fear, until Han follows her and calms her down, reminding her they've just started. They eventually reach the house, though Han isn't even sure it's the right one, explaining he had come before, but was turned away by a man who refused to let him in, and his sister never even came out to check on him, claiming she was in a state of possession and could harm them if she left. It's clear he never believed those excuses, but suddenly, Hanji opens the door warmly, welcoming them with exaggerated friendliness, saying he's happy his wife's brother is finally here, which annoys Han since he recognizes him as the same man who kicked him out before. At that moment, Ji-yeon calls C, asking where she is and why she's not by his side after he woke up. But Hae-seol quickly intervenes, warning her not to answer because that's not really Ji-yeon, and to put the phone down immediately. C tries to lower her hand, but realizes she has lost control of her body, while the voice on the phone keeps yelling and repeating, "Where are you?" With no other option, Hae-seol ties a rope around C's arm and pulls hard until the phone falls from her hand and she loses consciousness. Hae-seol immediately understands that C's spirit is trapped in another realm and tells Han they must act quickly to bring her back, warning them not to leave the room under any circumstances until Hanji gives the signal. She prepares everything for the ritual, tying C's hand with a white thread connected to her own, then places her hand on C's head and begins chanting, attempting to reach her in the cursed realm and awaken her spirit. When C regains awareness, she is confused, not understanding where she is or what's happening, until she sees Hae-seol, who explains that she must help her return to her body. But it won't be possible unless she passes through 3 gates on her own. Hae-seol tells Hanji to light the incense, explaining that each burn represents the limited time C has to find and pass through a gate, and if time runs out before she escapes, there will be no return. As C reaches the first gate, Hae-seol warns her not to look back under any circumstances, because in this cursed world, they are spiritually connected, and if she turns around, the evil entity will see her, causing all the gates to disappear and attack her. Despite how difficult it sounds, she assures her she can do it, and the moment C puts on the mask, her body disappears completely. At that point, C realizes she must face everything alone, gathering her courage to begin the journey through the 3 gates. As she passes through the door, C finds herself in a dark school corridor, so she turns on her phone flashlight and moves carefully, trying to explore and locate the next gate. She accidentally enters a classroom, remembers she must not look back no matter what, and tries to leave while keeping her back turned. But suddenly, she feels like she bumps into someone, and to her shock, it's Cam holding a sharp object. She runs in fear, trying to escape, but the scene of his death keeps repeating around her. No matter how far she runs, he keeps appearing in front of her, crying and begging her to help him, saying he doesn't want to die. Unable to bear it, she opens a window to escape. But that's when she realizes again that she's still trapped in the cursed world, especially when she sees her own reflection, while Cam continues and drags the blade across his neck in front of her. She remembers the entire moment of his death, but something feels off. He's smiling while doing it. And she realizes this isn't the real Cam, because her friend was terrified that day. She runs past him, and he disappears instantly. And finally, the first gate appears, allowing her to pass through. At that moment, Hae-seol tells Hanji to light the second incense quickly. The entity, feeding on C's trauma, raises the intensity and pulls her into another memory. The accident where her parents died. She sees them inside the car, bleeding heavily, and struggles to stay strong, forcing herself not to stop or look at them. But suddenly, they appear in front of her, lying on the ground, begging her to stay with them. She sees the next gate ahead, but she hesitates, unable to leave them behind despite knowing it's all an illusion. Meanwhile, Hae-seol keeps urging her to move before time runs out and she loses everything, while Hanji grows anxious and tells Hae-seol that if C fails, she should at least escape instead of being trapped as well. but Hae-seol refuses, determined to remove her mask and face the entity herself if necessary. Overwhelmed by the emotional pressure, C breaks down in tears, apologizes to her parents, says her final goodbye, and runs toward the gate with everything she has, managing to pass just before the incense burns out. Strangely, in that moment, she suddenly finds Hanji and Han sitting in front of her, calmly telling her that the 3 gates are already completed and she succeeded, and that Hae-seol is resting in her room after the exhausting ritual. But then Sia hears Hae-seol's voice again, warning her that there is still 1 gate left, and that she must not trust anything around her because everything she sees is part of the entity's illusion. At the same time, Hanji insists that the voice she hears is actually the entity trying to trick her, and when she asks him to call Hae-seol, he tells her that the entity wants her to look back, suggesting that if she does, it will reveal her location and attack. Unable to handle the pressure any longer, Sai breaks down, saying she doesn't know what to do or who to believe. At that moment, Han suddenly starts scratching his eyes violently and tells Sai that when she didn't return, he had to use the app to wish for her to come back safely, warning her that the spirit is right behind her. She turns instinctively, and instantly the thread connecting her to Hae-seol snaps, revealing that everything was an illusion from the 3rd gate. The effect on Hae-seol is severe. The mask shatters and she begins bleeding, yet she refuses to leave without saving C. Meanwhile, C finds herself in a completely dark place, the thread in her hand turning red as blood starts coming from her mouth and nose, leaving her unable to move. Luckily, Hae-seol manages to reach her and urges her to leave quickly before the entity notices her presence. They run together toward the gate and finally manage to escape safely. Back in the real world, Hanji feels relieved and signals Han to come check on them, while Nari goes to the hospital to confront Jiyeon and understand what happened that caused the countdown to stop. She finds him confused, remembering nothing. So she shows him the video of when the entity controlled him, teasing him about how C didn't even come to see him, hinting that she might be distancing herself. Later that day, Hae-seol explains that the app was created through a vengeful spirit, and the only way to stop it is to find the Mayong, the object that connects their world to the spirit world, and destroy it, most likely the phone C saw during the final gate. Unfortunately, only C can reach it now because she is the one linked to the entity. Later, while sleeping, C suddenly wakes up feeling something dripping on her face, only to realize it's red like blood. Terrified, she sees the spirit in front of her, a girl with a wounded neck, bleeding, slowly approaching and pointing behind her. When C turns, she sees someone attacking her, but suddenly wakes up, realizing it was just a nightmare. She tells Hae-seol about it, explaining there were 2 entities, not 1, but she couldn't see clearly before waking up. Hae-seol ties a white thread around her wrist before sending her out with Han and Hanji to search for the phone, explaining that the thread will keep them connected since she cannot leave the house, and warning her that if it breaks, she must return immediately because she cannot face the entity alone, and she must ignore any calls or messages she receives. At that moment, C asks Hanji if it's really true that Hae-seol cannot leave the house at all. Nari asks for confirmation, and Hanji assures her that it's true, explaining that a spirit is controlling Hae-seol, so her body wouldn't survive facing it alone. Noticing that Han is upset about his sister, he promises to do everything he can to find a solution and help free her. Meanwhile, Jiyeon is finally discharged from the hospital, and the first thing he does is go to C's house to see her, where he finds Nari already there. She lies to him, saying C asked her to pick up some things from the house, while at the same time, Han begins searching for the entity's phone using Cam's laptop, since Cam was the first to discover the app and had synced everything with his device, making the search easier. During this, Han receives a message asking where he's been all this time, and saying people were worried something bad happened to him. So C replies by typing in the same style Cam used, so no one suspects anything, even asking if he was afraid the spirit might have returned to haunt him. The sender then says he has what Han asked for, and suggests they meet at their usual spot before ending the conversation. This leads them to question where that place could be, but Han quickly traces Cam's last known locations until they finally identify it. When they arrive, the guy immediately runs away upon seeing them, but C chases him down and manages to catch him, and the 3 of them surround him, demanding answers. He insists he did nothing wrong, saying he only brought Kam the medication he used for focus, and that the app was just something he found online. He explains that Kam became curious after reading a post about two girls' spirits in their school, Rong and another girl, and that Rong's mother was rumored to be a shaman. However, the post was later deleted from the group. He shows them a picture of the two girls, and they decide to visit the neighborhood where Rong lived to ask about her mother. They spend almost the entire day searching for the house until they come across a small shop, where they ask the owner about the shaman who used to live there. She tells them the house is at the end of the street on the left, though she hasn't seen her in about 3 years. When they show her the picture, they're shocked to learn that Rong is not the shaman's daughter at all. In fact, the other girl is. Once they reach the house, Hanji takes out a compass-like tool to check if the place is safe, and when it starts reacting, he tells them to stay outside while he goes in alone. He makes them stand together and draws a protective circle around them using salt to keep them safe. Suddenly, C sees the spirit of the girl in front of her and asks Han if he can see it too, but he's confused. She follows the spirit behind the house, where she finds a buried jacket in the ground, along with a protective talisman and a photo of Rong and the other girl. Meanwhile, inside the house, Hanji discovers a hidden door that leads to a room filled with statues, along with scattered school uniforms on the floor, surrounded by even more figures, leaving him confused about whether this is some kind of protection ritual or a curse. Suddenly, he hears Han calling him to show him the photo and talisman they found. And at that moment, Han realizes that things are starting to connect. Since the app is linked to the school system, originally created for a competition, all the uploaded videos must be stored there. By tracing the very first video ever uploaded, they can identify Rong's phone and stop the curse. However, there's a problem. Only teachers can access the school system. C quickly comes up with a solution, suggesting they use their coach's email, and they head to the school together, enter the office, and access the videos with surprising ease. That's when they are hit with another shocking discovery. They find a video of Nari, clearly drunk, saying, "My wish is for 2 people I hate to die, so I can finally be free," mentioning Kam. And just as she's about to say the second name, someone pulls her away. C is devastated, realizing that Kam's death was caused by Nari, and that she might lose her too now that the wish has been fulfilled. To understand how things got to this point, we flash back to the night Nari went out with her 2 friends, Lee and Kira. During their hangout, she told them about the Wish app, and surprisingly, Lee confirmed that it really works, but at the cost of your life. When he saw how scared she became, he laughed it off, mocking her for believing such nonsense. But Nari, driven by stubbornness, took a tissue, wrote her name and birth date, recorded the Wish video, and the second person she mentioned was Lee. The next day, after recovering from the effects of alcohol and arriving late at school, she was horrified to see Cam dying in front of the class. And when she checked her phone, she found out that Lee had also died. At that exact moment, she received a message saying her wish had been granted and that the countdown had begun. As the curse took hold of her, she started experiencing hallucinations, hearing her friends talking badly about her family and accusing her mother of betrayal before her father's death, calling her selfish and incapable of loving anyone but herself. Realizing the nightmare she was trapped in, she immediately went to Kira and demanded to know the truth, sensing that she knew more than she was saying. Kira then revealed that all she knew was that a girl named Khan created the app to bully another girl named Rong. Both girls died because of the app, but Kira admits she doesn't know more than that, suggesting that if Nari wants the truth, she should look into Khan, since she is behind everything, especially because her mother was a shaman. Later, when they all gathered at C's house trying to stop the app, Nari was also able to see the entity attacking Jiyeon, which is why she took out her phone and recorded it. Things became even more complicated when she accidentally discovered that Jiyeon's countdown had stopped, and at that same moment, the entity took advantage of the situation and sent him a message from C's phone, saying they had figured out how to stop the curse, but that he must not tell Nari because one of them had to take the blame. Jiyeon believed the message immediately, while Nari, feeling betrayed, swore to take revenge on all of them. As they continued searching for information about the 2 girls, they entered the nurse's office to access old records and found Khan's file, which stated that she died from severe injuries to her neck and face. Jiyeon then realizes it must be her, remembering the wounds he saw on the entity's face during the attack at C's house. He also notices that Nari doesn't seem surprised, which makes him confront her, asking if she had seen the same thing before and if that's why she recorded everything. Nari loses her temper, accusing him of interrogating her and mocking him for suddenly acting smart, while he tries to calm her down, explaining that he knows she must have her reasons for lying, but needs to hear the truth from her. At that moment, the entity takes control of Nari's body, and she grabs scissors and attacks C, trying to escape. As soon as Hanji senses something through his tool reacting, he rushes to the school to stop her, and by coincidence, finds Ji-yeon suspended in the air, scratching his neck as if trying to kill himself. Hanji quickly throws a talisman, breaking the window and rushing inside, but the entity manages to escape and even takes control of Hanji himself, forcing him to grab a piece of glass and injure himself around his eyes. Ironically, that injury gives him the ability to see the entity clearly like the others. To understand the connection between Hanji and Kon, we go back in time, where Hanji used to be close friends with Kon, deeply attached to her, to the point that if she disappeared, she would search everywhere for her. One day, she went to Kon's house looking for her, and since Kon's mother was a shaman, the entire place smelled of incense, and there was a separate room that no one was allowed to enter. At that time, Hanji's eyes were extremely red, so Kon's mother insisted on treating her herself, explaining that the inflammation was caused by a cursed presence, and after performing a ritual, her eyes returned to normal and even improved. Hanji was amazed by her abilities, but she didn't stay long in the house because she knew Kon hated her mother's work and always avoided it, often isolating herself in a hidden room inside an abandoned factory so no one would discover their secrets. Later, when the two girls met to go to school together, Kon noticed the smell of incense on Hanji's clothes, which upset her because she had told her many times not to get involved with her mother. Hanji tried to fix the situation and apologized repeatedly, but at school, Kon was part of the programming club and had noticed that Rong wanted to join just to be close to her, yet Kon deliberately ignored her and pretended not to care. Around her friends, she completely denied knowing Rong, even though Rong kept trying to maintain their friendship. One day after school, Rong was walking home alone when she found Kon's mother drunk and collapsed on the ground, so she helped her and took her home. Meanwhile, Kon was with her friends brainstorming ideas for a competition app, and one of them suggested creating an app that grants wishes, where a person records a video holding a paper with their name and birth date, then makes a wish. They also joked about a girl at school whose mother was a shaman, even claiming she might have been responsible for her husband's death, hinting at Rong. Kon stayed silent, worried they would realize they were talking about her friend, but subtly confirmed it. Back at the house, Kon's mother noticed Rong's curiosity and told her she could enter the ritual room if she wanted. Inside, Rong was shocked by the number of statues hanging everywhere, and one in particular caught her attention. A figure bound tightly around the neck. Kon's mother explained it was called Dolmi, a curse that allows control over a person and even suspending them in the air by their neck, but only if specific steps are followed. Carving the person's facial features, attaching something personal like hair or nails with silk thread, and finally sprinkling fresh blood, all while fully believing in its power. By coincidence, when Kon returned home and saw Rong there, she became furious and left immediately. Rong realized the mistake she had made and rushed after her to their secret place to apologize. But Kon lashed out, revealing her deepest wish, that her mother would die so she could be free from everything tying her down, and then asked Rong about her own wish. Rong, innocent and naive, admitted that her biggest wish was for the guy Kon liked in the programming club to notice her and return her feelings. Hearing that, Kon decided she would be the first to test the app they created, using it as a way to have some fun and experiment with the idea. One day, Kon's mother returned home and was shocked to find all the statues thrown on the floor and the entire room turned upside down, the chaos caused by her own daughter in an act of rebellion. But what Kon didn't realize was that her mother would be the one to pay the price. Understanding the severity of the curse, her mother chose to sacrifice herself to save her daughter, locking herself inside and performing a protection ritual on Kon's clothes so that the evil spirits would be redirected toward her instead. The next day, when Rong went to check on Kon, she found her mother burying Khan's jacket behind the house, along with a protective talisman and a photo, while she was bleeding heavily and clearly near death. She handed Rong the talisman and begged her to secretly place it in Khan's bag, saying her life was in danger and that although she couldn't save her husband, she was willing to give her own life to save her daughter. However, when Rong tried to hide the talisman, Kun caught her, slapped her in anger, and didn't stop there. She decided to take revenge by exposing Rong's video to the entire school and spreading rumors that she was involved in shaman practices, which led to severe bullying. Unable to tamil everything, Rong returned to their secret place and followed all of Khan's mother's instructions. Using the Dolmi statue, carving her own name, recording a video on the app, wishing that everyone would die the same way she would, and then taking her own life. When Khan saw the video, she was horrified and tried to delete the app, but Rong's spirit had already taken control. And in that moment, Khan lost control of herself under the curse, grabbing a sharp object and fatally injuring herself, dying from the wounds. Returning to the present, Nari, now possessed by the entity, attacks C with a metal rod, but Han steps in and takes the blow for her. As soon as Honji arrives with his talisman, Nari flees, and C insists they go to the hospital to treat their injuries. There, Honji tells Han that the injury to his eyes has given him the ability to see spirits clearly, meaning he can now identify the force controlling Haseol and help free her. Han is overwhelmed with relief, and finally acknowledges his connection to his sister. Later, they review Honji's footage and realize that all the victims died the same way, through neck injuries. And the good news is that they can trace the exact location of the phone used to record the first video. That's when they discover the truth. Khan is the source of the curse because before dying, she wished for it to continue endlessly, making her spirit the entity controlling everything, including Nari. When they reach the location inside the abandoned factory, a car suddenly speeds toward them, trying to run them over. But Honji manages to swerve at the last second and crashes into a wall. When he checks the car, it's empty, confirming that the entity is behind it, trying to stop Sai before she reaches the phone. Suddenly, a metal rod breaks loose from an electric pole and is about to hit C, but Honji rushes forward and takes the impact instead, the rod piercing through his body. Despite being devastated by the sight, C forces herself to stay strong and continue, knowing she must end everything. She and Ji-yeon enter the factory and finally find the room where the phone is located. But just as she is about to grab it, Nari attacks her again, still under the entity's control. Ji-yeon quickly uses a talisman to separate the spirit from her body, bringing her back to her senses, and C takes the phone. Before leaving, she approaches Nari, asking if she's back and suggesting they leave together. But Nari suddenly reveals that the entity still controls her, grabs the thread protecting Se, laughs, and disappears. Immediately, C's body begins to seize, leaving her unable to move. Haseol calls Ji-yeon, telling him to bring C to the mountain house immediately before she dies. Suddenly, C finds herself back in the school, surrounded by her friends, as if everything is normal again. But she quickly realizes it's another illusion created by the entity. At the same time, in reality, Ji-yeon reaches the mountain house carrying C and hands her to Haseol, who prepares to begin the ritual that will destroy the phone and end the curse once and for all. However, after everything is done, they realize that C is still unconscious because her spirit remains trapped in the cursed world, which means the phone they destroyed was not the true object linking their world to the spirit realm. Haseol is forced to enter the other world herself to save her, and when she reaches Sai, she apologizes, admitting that she failed to destroy the app. As they try to escape, they find Rong standing in front of them, pointing toward the media room. At that moment, Haseol understands that Rong has been trying to help them all along, guiding them to the truth, that Khan is the one behind everything, and that to end the curse, they must destroy Khan's phone, which is located in the media room where she died. They quickly agree on a plan. C will go find and destroy the phone, while Haseol holds Khan back as much as possible. When C enters the media room, she is attacked again by Nari, but this time, Nari shows no regret for what she did to Khan, blaming him for discovering the app and ruining their lives. C loses control in anger and fights back until Nari collapses, leaving her with no choice but to focus on finding the phone. Meanwhile, Haseol manages to restrain the entity by binding it to herself with a talisman, and as soon as she finds the phone, Haseol releases it and throws the talisman toward her, allowing Seat to destroy the phone. In that exact moment, they finally escape the cursed world after completing their mission. Later, they perform a ritual at Haseol's house to say their final goodbye to Kam and Nari, sending their souls to the afterlife in peace. Hunji, now fully recovered, feels relieved and even hopeful after witnessing the force controlling Haseol, promising that they will eventually find a way to free her completely so she can leave the house again. Everyone feels a sense of relief and happiness, as if they had almost lost all hope, and finally, things begin to return to normal.